What if I told you NATO may be preparing to strike Russia before Russia strikes them? For months, Putin has been attacking NATO without firing a single traditional shot, and now NATO is finally saying enough.
The old saying goes, the best defense is a good offense. For months, Vladimir Putin has relied on NATO ignoring that idea. Through drone incursions, cyber attacks, sabotage, and constant intimidation, Russia has waged a hybrid war across Europe, all while assuming NATO won't respond unless tanks roll across a border. But now, that assumption may be collapsing. On December 1st, Admiral Giuseppe Dragone, the head of NATO's military committee, said something NATO leaders almost never say out loud. NATO may need to get proactive, maybe even preemptive. According to him, Russia's hybrid attacks are so persistent and dangerous that a preemptive defensive action might now be justified. And that represents a major shift for an alliance built entirely on reacting, not attacking first. Traditionally, NATO's identity comes from Article 5. One nation gets attacked, everyone responds. But in practice, that makes NATO slow. It waits, watches, and only acts when someone else strikes first. Russia has figured that out and exploited it. But recent events, both military and diplomatic, have pushed NATO to rethink everything. Why now? Part of the reason is the high-stakes US-Russia-Ukraine peace discussions. EU Vice President Kaja Kallas warned that this week could be pivotal, not because peace is near, but because Russia may pressure the US to push Ukraine into a deal that benefits Moscow. Russia seems to be playing every angle at once. While peace talks are being discussed, Russia continues intense attacks on Ukraine, including a deadly December 1st strike on the Dnipro region that killed and wounded dozens. These are not the actions of a nation preparing for peace. At the same time, Europe is being targeted by a wave of Russian hybrid warfare. The European Policy Center says Russia's repeated airspace violations in the Baltics aren't accidents, they're rehearsals for a larger conflict. Romania has had Russian drones cross deep into its airspace. Poland saw over 20 drones cross its border in September. Russia is pushing the boundaries further and further, as if testing how far it can go before NATO reacts. Experts at CEPA argue that Europe needs to stop simply defending and start punishing these hybrid attacks. They propose identifying Russia's economic and military vulnerabilities, reinforcing elections, countering disinformation, and responding with offensive cyber capabilities. Which brings us back to Admiral Dragone. He says NATO must consider being more aggressive, being proactive instead of reactive, especially in the cyber domain. That could mean disrupting Russian cyber units, hacking networks that support drone and missile strikes, or disabling the facilities building Russia's long-range Shahed-type drones Moscow now produces at nearly 2,700 per month. Several European countries, including Denmark and the Czech Republic, already authorize offensive cyber operations. Italy recently proposed a 1,500-person cyber force under a new European Center for Countering Hybrid Warfare. So NATO's shift isn't coming out of nowhere. Europe has already begun preparing. Of course, Russia reacted with outrage. Foreign Ministry spokesman Maria Zakharova called NATO's remarks irresponsible, ignoring the fact that Russia has been launching drones into NATO territory for months. Russian lawmakers threatened catastrophic consequences if NATO ever carried out a preemptive strike. This is classic Kremlin strategy. Attack, deny, blame the victim, then threaten them. But here's the key detail everyone is noticing. NATO still hasn't clearly defined what a preemptive action would look like. Dragone made one thing clear. This isn't about launching missiles into Moscow. Instead, it could mean cyber operations against Russian military infrastructure, disabling drone production before drones are launched, sabotaging Russian hybrid warfare units, targeting the networks Russia uses to destabilize Europe. These are the same tactics Russia already uses, but turned back on Russia. Dragone even said, launching a preventative action against a site where drones could be ready to be launched could be an option. Note the careful language. Action, not strike. A cyber attack that shuts down a drone factory doesn't explode anything, but it sends a message Russia can't ignore. The real challenge is NATO's legal and political framework is built for reaction, not prevention. Dragone himself admitted that NATO still needs to figure out the legal ground, the jurisdiction, and who would actually carry out these operations. But time may be running out. Russia's hybrid war is escalating. Peace talks may collapse, and Putin may be preparing for something bigger. The question now isn't if NATO will change its posture, it's how soon it must do it to stop a larger conflict.